through my journey, I can observe how different I am from, being a person without purpose or without passion with the person I am today. If I would have take, career directions that work in a corporate or work in business, maybe I would have been better off financially, or if I'm not a social entrepreneur, if I'm not leading my own company, maybe I wouldn't have to deal with the COVID trouble, right? Somebody else struggled. But then without purpose and passion, would I be as happy? Would I be as energetic? And would I have the friends that I have today? I think especially young people, when they're starting to make big life decisions, it's always very confusing, right? You always have influence from the expectation of the society, from your family, from what you already study and invest in, what your teacher, your school tell you, or what yourself think would be, a better path. Everyone work at least 8 hours a day, and that's the majority of your day. Like, you work more and you interact with your friends and family. You work for 8 hours, you eat and rest for the rest 10 hours, just only leave you a few minutes for yourself and friends and family. So if you don't use that 8 hours very well, the majority of your life, you're going to be suffering. So for me, it's having that one passion or purpose that makes you feel excited every day to spend that 8 hours in a meaningful way. That makes a completely big difference to anyone's life.
Hello everyone, my name is Din Long and welcome to the podcast Lifeline. In this podcast, I will interview people who are having a positive impact in their community and have a strong message that deserves to be shared. We will dive deeper into their journey becoming a change maker, and hopefully you can take away some insights for your own journey. And please do subscribe to Lifeline on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or any platform that you are using. And also you can share this episode with your friends if you like it. It's really what helps me the most. In today's episode, you will be meeting Milie, the co-founder of Innovation Incubator, a social enterprise that aims to unleash the leadership potential of young Vietnamese. Her mission is to foster social innovation and entrepreneurship for sustainable development in grassroots communities. We laid down her journey discovering youth leadership, social innovation and entrepreneurship with AIESEC, which is the largest youth-run non-profit, with UNDP, with Tandemic, and with Asia Pacific Youth Exchange. Milie shares with us how each of these experiences successively built one brick of what Innovation Incubator is today. We discuss why it's important for youth to find a purpose that makes them alive, and how finding it for herself changed her vision of life. Hello, Milie.
Hello, Long.
For the background, Linka, that I interviewed in the first episode, is your good friend, and she's been speaking about you forever, ever since I arrived in UNDP. So for me, it's a milestone to be able to speak to you and discover more about your life. I think so many things to speak about today. I've been stalking you a lot this week. And I think a few things I noticed and I really want to speak about is, I think the two keywords around you will be social innovation and social entrepreneurship, which defines a bit your journey so far. And I also want to speak a lot about AIESEC. It feels like it's like your first big experience that shaped everything.
Yeah, it was a big part of my journey growing up.
Yeah. And basically, I mean, just pretty much everything. I want to know everything.
You're welcome to ask any questions you would like. I'm an open book.
Perfect. Before we jump in, maybe I'll just invite you if you want to introduce yourself, who you are, where you are calling from.
Yes. So my name is Milie, and I'm from Vietnam. And I'm very honored to be here with Dinh Long today to share with everyone who's listening my story and my experience, and I hope it will somewhat bring some values to the time that you will spend listening to our conversation.
And where are you now?
I'm currently stuck in Bali because of COVID. I live in Jakarta, and I have my work in Vietnam, but because of COVID, I'm unable to go back to Vietnam at the moment. So I'm in Bali in Indonesia.
I think it's funny because, when I say stuck in Paris, everyone is like, oh, Well, no one is stuck in Paris. I think it's the same for Bali, right? Stuck in Bali. From external audience, people are like, "Oh,
That's a very common reaction, but I would say, once you're far away from home, everywhere else is just a temporary destination, no matter how nice it is. So for
yeah,
me, it's still, I'm unable to go home at the moment. So it's still a stranded situation for me.
yeah." Hopefully, you can make it back home soon. Could you introduce a bit all the activities that you are involved in these days?
So I started with AIESEC in university in my second year. And actually in the first year of university, I was, was a typical teenagers, or was very occupied with romance and shopping and all the possibility when you finally have freedom from your parents when you turn 18. But after the first year of university, I kind of, I was looking for something else. And I found AIESEC, which was a social organization who focused on developing leadership in young people. And I was involved in the organization for 3.5 years. With my last role was vice president for AIESEC in Vietnam. And after that, I moved to Thailand to work with UNDP in Asia Pacific, which also in a team who are dedicating to working in youth leadership and innovation in the region. And after that, I moved to KL in Malaysia to work for a social innovation consultancy. They also do corporate innovation as a consultant. And after a year in KL, I moved back to Vietnam to start my own business, to set up my own social enterprise. And that's until last year, 2019. I'm not sure if that was a good introduction.
No, it's good. I think it's a good teaser. So we'll come back to all of that, obviously. I think you also founded the social enterprise in Bangkok, right?
Yes. Yes, I forgot to mention that.
Okay, well, no worries. We'll come back to all of that. But before, I wanted to ask you, your real, real, I don't know, but your passport name is Milie. I just wanted to know, does it mean something?
Yeah, so my sister named me that after a Chinese woman general. I'm not sure if you heard the story of the Tong family, the three Tong sisters.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so there's a Chinese story, not exactly story, they all actual historic figures. And there's a family of three sisters, Tong Ai Linh, Tong Khang Linh, and Tong Mit Linh. And the story was very popular in Vietnam in the 90s. And there's a movie series about them in Vietnam. So my sister named me after the youngest sister, who's Tong Mit Linh. So that's my name. So she's a Chinese political figure who was the first lady of the Republic of China and the wife of the President Chiang Kai-shek.
Oh,
that's the information in English. Yeah, but she was the most intelligent of the three sisters, and she was the most rebellious. And she married to the first president of China.
So is there a wave of people with the name of the three sisters from the 90s?
I think there's definitely a lot of people named Linh. But Mỹ Linh is, I haven't seen a lot. There's a very popular singer in Vietnam with the same name, Mỹ Linh. But there's a lot of people named Linh for girls' names in the 90s. I remember there was one class in my elementary school where we have 5 Lins in the same classroom. So I would say it's popular.
And so another question on your name. Since when did you name yourself Milie?
I would say since I started university, because I went to an international university where my professor and all my coursework is done in English. And I like my name, but it's just to foreigners, they usually pronounce this as a Chinese name, like Mei Ling, instead of Mỹ Linh. You know, it's such a difference, but I felt like they was calling another person instead of my name. So I decided to keep like a simplified version that anyone can easily pronounce. And I also like, give myself a nickname, teenage years.
How long did it take until you really owned Milie?
Um, hmm. I would say I would say since I started working in international environment, like first of all was in AIESEC, where I started to work with, foreign friends, and in an environment where we use English for all the communication, where, there's other nationalities in the same groups. And that's the only name that everyone else have known me. And I just only introduced that name to everyone else that I know.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
Beside my family, everyone else know me as Milie.
Okay. So you said in your introduction that you were, so I just quote you, this typical teenager, all about shopping and romance until like 18, 19, I guess. Could you share just a bit, how was your life until 18, 19? And then what made you, because you said then you were looking for something else, but what made you want to look for something else?
Yeah, so I would say, should I start from when I was small? Or how do you tell?
Yeah, we have time as you want.
Okay, so I grew up in a business family. So my mom especially have quite a unique background. So she's had her ranking in the military. So she's a military person, but she's also a businesswoman, because in Vietnam, the military, after the reform, after 86, they only opened the economy then. And back then, the military has been like, what's the word? Like trailblazing? So the military has been the pioneers in opening new businesses and restarting the economy. So my mom got to run a business within the military. So she has both a business of her own, but also the ranking in the military. But up until I was 10, our family was quite poor because they actually went bankrupt once during the process. So I remember I grew up in a military kind of dormitory house with a lot of other families, sharing the same yard, and just playing with dirt. I remember we were very, very poor back then. But then after, when I was 10, that's around the year 2000, then our business picked up. And I would say I had quite a privileged childhood when, I have good educations and everything was well provided. But I was also a very rebellious teenagers growing up. I would say because, we transitioned from this period of being poor, but a very close-knit family with my parents and my sister. And now they both becoming extremely busy and distant from us, which was when my sister turned 18 and when I was, entering my early teenage years. Then I became very rebellious and I was kind of against everything that was happening around me. So that happened until I had quite a difficult high school years as well, where I also fell into, like very deep depressions and feeling like disconnected from everyone from my family. And that lasted until I leave for university when I was 18. Yeah, and after that, I also went to an international university, which, also comprises of students who also came from very successful family background. And most of them have, family business or whose parents are very successful people. So I was very privileged to be in that environment. But I also saw very distinct sides of the group of students. One is that because they're so privileged, they don't need to strive very hard to have things that everyone else is striving so hard for, like to be able to have a good job or to have, money to spend, because they kind of have a safety net from family. Even if they don't succeed, if they don't study very well, probably they can still work in their family business or, they have connections who can help them in the real world. that's one group of the students, and I was one of them. Like I was really enjoying, being so provided for, and enjoying, the freedom of being away from family, but close to many other cool friends. That most of what we were doing was shopping and like racing motorbikes and very material things like that, or traveling together. And I really enjoyed that period. But I also saw another group of students who, because they felt that they were so privileged, they also really tried to give back to other people, try to use the resources that they have to do something meaningful. And they actually work really hard, like they study really hard and they work really hard trying to achieve something and get somewhere. So in my second year of university, like intrigued by, this opposite side that I've seen. And then I entered myself to a club back then at school, which was AIESEC. Yeah.
So I have two questions in one. So the first one is, would you say you had this awareness of this? I mean, the RMIT students, they are more privileged than others. They have to struggle less because you said you grew up in the first 10 years in a poor situation. And second question is, like, so this group of students who you said they work hard because they want to give back and want to have an impact, were they your friends or just people you saw around and you were curious about what they were doing? And it's really like they inspired you to look into AIESEC?
I would say that, I would say I didn't know anyone from AIESEC back then. It's just we have this club day when all the clubs get to, display and all their members come out and try to welcome everyone to join their own clubs. And I don't remember exactly the details, but back then it was the only club that I was considering registering. And it turns out to be a very difficult process. Like you have to apply and then you have to go a group teamwork session where you work in team for a challenge. And there's a board of, other students who observe you and judge you, and then have a final interview one-on-one. So actually when I registered, I didn't really expect anything much. I thought it was another club at school. But then I was very intrigued by the formality, and it seems like something challenging and exciting. I would say the first few friends that I met in AIESEC, they're still my friends now. Like they're one of the few friends that I have the longest connection with. So I would say it wasn't anything particular. It was, I was very new at the school. I wanted to join a club, and they ended up being my very good friends and long-term friends. And AIESEC was kind of an enabling environment of that.
It's funny because I have I think similar story actually. I also went to a fancy business school in Paris, and there was this student club day also, and I joined. It's not AIESEC, but it's called. It's like similar, social entrepreneurship and social innovation student club, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And it's how I discovered all of that. And I think it shaped everything. But anyway, back to you. Could you maybe remind what is AIESEC? And what did you do? Because you stayed 3 years in this student club. So what were you responsible for? Was it easy, challenging? Yeah, if you could share that experience.
Yes. So AIESEC is currently still the world's largest youth-led organization, and their vision is to work towards peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. So the organization is set up after World War II, where a group of young students in Europe realized that, because of the differences of worldviews and the lack of understanding between each other, there was such devastating consequences such as the World War II. So this group of students dedicated their time and work to have an organization to exchange students around the world. So if you are a young person, you can go to another country to volunteer or work and be immersed in that new culture, new environment with other young people who also support you in your growth journey. And that's how they advocate peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. So a lot of the work in the organization is focused on facilitating exchange of students and young people between different countries. And all these exchange programs are designed in a way that help the person develop their leadership skill or help them expose their potentials in their volunteering or professional work. So I joined AIESEC as a member, and AIESEC have a democratic system where in order to progress in the organization, every leadership position have to be over open election. So open voting, like everyone, if you want to be president of a chapter, if you want to move on to a national level, you have to be voted for by all the members that have the power to vote. So I joined as a member for around 6 months, and then I applied for the vice president position in my local chapter, which was in my university. And I worked for that position for 1 year as a volunteer because we were studying at the time, and there was no, it's still a local student organization. And then after 1 year of being vice president in my local chapter, I applied to be national vice president to facilitate outgoing exchange internship exchange program. So that means to facilitate a program where we send Vietnamese students to go abroad as interns. And I got elected for that role, and I worked for that role for another year. Yeah. Is that a good enough explanation?
Yeah. So you said AIESEC's objective is to facilitate change for all the participants of programs. I'm wondering on the other way around, like how did you change through your AIESEC experience?
That's a big question. I need to reflect on that a little bit. I think how AIESEC changed me was once. The first thing is the first time I went abroad was through AIESEC. So I went abroad when I was 19 to the Philippines for an AIESEC conference, and that's actually why I met my good friend, one of my best friends, who is Savvy. He was also in AIESEC at the time. And we're still good friends until today. And he's been kind of one of my most important mentors and brothers in life. So and also my president at the time, my teammate, since university, they still my friends to this day. They're the one who, follow me with every step of, my new job, or when I get engaged or when I have a baby. They're the one that be there for every life milestone that I have. So I would say AIESEC provided a very important network for my life, like network of good friends. The second is through AIESEC, I get to see the world, I got an opportunity to be exposed to many different type of young people, where, of course, with that come along with a lot of new perspective about new opinion, new cultures about all the issues that we were able to discuss as an organization. And also through that, I have a chance to work with teams who are professionals, who are very outstanding in their fields, who I still learn a lot until this day. After AIESEC, I watch their work and I watch their career and I watch how they make decisions in life and how they grow themselves, and they're all role models in life that provide me kind of a benchmark of how I should be in the world as well. Yeah, so I would say one is my lifelong connections with friends. Second is the opportunities that I got to have. And third is to learn from all the teams and the people that I worked with that shaped my capabilities.
Is it during AIESEC that you realized, okay, I want to stay in the youth social entrepreneurship and innovation world, or is it not yet?
Yes, I would definitely say AIESEC inspired me to be in the social development sector at least, because actually during the AIESEC time, I also try out a lot of different things. I also try out opening my own online shop with my sister. My sister back then also have a company working in telecommunications, so I also try to help her with some of the work with the company. My parents are business people, so ever since high school, they engaged me in business activities. So I wasn't just doing AIESEC work, but the work, the type of work that I feel most rewarded and fulfilling was with AIESEC, where we do, we were volunteering at the time, but I felt very connected with the cause. I felt there was a purpose. I felt that this was a very, how to say, a very I'm trying to find words for the community. I'm not sure what to describe it, but it's very different from the business world, or from the corporate world. The type of people and the type of connections you get to have is distinctly different. And I think I was very lucky to be able to see this when I was very young, so that I get a very clear directions of what I want to do when I enter the workforce. Although I was a big disappointment to my parents, who really expected me to, become a businesswoman and become very rich and successful and powerful. So I think in their eyes, like their image of success is to earn a lot of money, have a lot of status. But I decided to not follow that exact path, and we went through quite a difficult time as well with my parents, trying to get their approval and understanding of what I choose to do later on.
And now, do they accept what you are doing?
Well, I think it was a very long and difficult process. I think, as I mentioned, I was a very rebellious person as well. So I don't think I took the best way to persuade them. But actually, after graduation, when I say I wanted to move to Bangkok to work in the social sector, my mom actually said that she would disown me. She say she wouldn't recognize me as a daughter anymore because I'm going against her decision. But yeah, after many months of crying and fighting, and I still decided to go. And I think she was very heartbroken at the time, but she decided to support me regardless. And we have like, it's a very funny, very Asian insight, but every household kind of save goal. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but instead of like, saving cash in a bank account, everybody save gold. And ever since small, my mom been teaching me to save money in like the piggy bank. And she's been using all my saving money to buy gold, so that it's like a safety pot for me. And even though she was really against my decision to move, but when I moved, she saw all the gold that she's been saving for me. So that was the start of fun that I had to move to Thailand.
How did you take this decision because I guess it's very difficult. I don't know. How do you take this kind of decision?
I think even though as contradictory as it may sound, my mom was really against me to go, to choose this path. But she was the one who always raised me to be very strong and independent and very decisive, because that's who she is. Like, she's a very successful businesswoman, and she's always been very tough, and she's been successful in a military war ruled by men. So I always been looking up to her as a role model to, always be strong and independent. And just unfortunately, when I needed to be strong and independent and defending my own decision, it wasn't the one that she would be favor of. And she was quite upset because of that. But but I think I think she always made me that way. And so it was inevitable that I fought with everything that I could to have my own way. Does it make sense?
Yeah. No, I think it's no, because I'm wondering, like, you know what you want, but there's so many external forces that tell you not to go.
Yeah, I think if there were reason, I think at the time, what I was saying was, I saw my brother-in-law, who was also, he was young in his career. He was in his early 30s, and he was also in international mission to abroad into Africa. And for me, that was also an unusual choice for a lot of people, right? Like to live life comfortably at home with wife and kids, to walk away from home, far away in Africa. But he was considered successful. He was considered, a figure in our family as well as in the company. But when I choose to make a very similar decisions to go abroad and work and work towards my career, the reaction I faced was, you should get married now that you graduated. You should get married. You should stick with your boyfriend even if you're not happy. You should get you shouldn't be too successful as a woman, otherwise you won't be able to get a husband. Or you should get a job that is comfortable, maybe less pay, but more comfortable and near to home, so that you can take care of your family. And in my mind, the difference was so clear that I really couldn't understand it. I was like, I was quite shocked actually to face, the reaction from my family that I shouldn't go, that they would disown me. Because to me, it was the same decision as my brother-in-law back then. But it was regarded as a completely different thing. And I think that's also why I fought extra hard as well, because I saw this as, unfair and unreasonable at the time. Yeah.
Did you expect that it would happen during your university days? Or it just came?
I didn't at all. I would say that it came out as quite a surprise. But yeah, that's how it went down.
Okay. So you moved to Bangkok right after you ended university?
Yeah.
So how did that work? I mean, so wait. So you finished university, then it's also the end of AIESEC. You found a job at UNDP, where I'm currently. So you're my ancestor. So yeah, how long did you stay there? What did you do?
Well, I actually moved before I get the contract to UNDP. I actually moved because, I still remember like the month before I was moving, I was watching on TV the news of like a UN meeting, and I just say to my mom, like, Mom, I want to work for the UN. And then she say, who would hire you? Like very, very jokingly way, but she really doesn't think, that those are the options for me. She was very fixed for me to be a businesswoman. And so I didn't think the opportunity would come so fast. But my friends who's the co-founder with me for the social enterprise in Thailand was also in AIESEC. And also one of my leaders in AIESEC was also now in Bangkok working for a UN program. And so they were saying, we really need people. I just graduated and I had a post on Facebook saying I was unemployed and now I'm ready for a new job. And they kind of say, hey, we have this thing for you, but we just, you can come if you want to do this, but we might not have any money to pay you any salary, because it was just a concept at the time, it was just a project. And I was really desperate to find something that really aligned with my values. Like I try to apply for jobs in corporate as my mom wishes, but it didn't. I really didn't feel like I would stay for any of that opportunities. So as I mentioned before, I saw all my goal that I saved since I was small, and I have a small amount of money. And I left to Bangkok with the expectation that at least for 6 months I was not gonna be paid, because I didn't have a contract at the time. I just have a project that I was willing to come to help as a volunteer. But luckily, after I arrived in Thailand, after 2 months, helping out on projects and meeting with people in the UN, and they saw me as, somewhat valuable, and they gave me a contract. So it was kind of a wild decision. It wasn't really a move for the job decision. It was more like, okay, I'm just gonna be there and see how it goes.
So there were two things in Bangkok. One was you were supporting one idea/project of UNDP from people that you met in AIESEC. And the second thing, you said you co-founded the social enterprise already?
That was a year after, yeah. That was after a year when I was in Bangkok.
Okay. So yeah, to everyone listening, if you're looking for a job, post on Facebook and post on LinkedIn. You never know where it's gonna bring you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you moved with no visibility, without support of your family. You moved to Bangkok, so that's quite impressive.
And like the first day that I moved there, the next day was the pass away of King Rama IX. And so I saw a very different Thailand as well. It was a huge culture shock, because when I was supposed to be finding accommodation, to be interacting with my new workplace, Thailand just completely shut down, and people was in grieving. People were, everyone was in plague. People were in deep sorry for the loss of the king. And for me, who was just, completely strange to the culture, I never been to Thailand before, and that's all I was seeing. But also at the same time, it showed me a very different side of Thailand that I would say if I was there as a tourist, I would never have connected with the country so much, being in such an important moment of the country as well. And that also made me work extra hard to do whatever I can in Thailand.
Because you wanted to connect more with the country, or because you wanted to stay?
I think because I was shown a very different side of the country, like not just, what I see on the news. I think back in the day when I was moving there, like all I know from the news from Thailand was they have bombing here and there in Bangkok. They have very unstable political situation. They have very strong tourism, but also like the other side of tourism with sex tourism and other issues that you normally see in the news, right? But when I was there, I was seeing, people are really connected with a leader figure. They have a very different, but also very impressive and intriguing culture. Like it's somewhat very familiar with our culture in Vietnam, but also very distinctively embedded with Buddhism teachings and the way people would interact with me or with each other, or I think I arrived in a very interesting time, and I saw a very different, interesting side of the culture and the people, and that's just it was very intriguing and make me connect with the country even more. Yeah.
How long did you stay in Thailand?
I stayed for almost 2.5 years.
Okay. Did you always keep that connection throughout the 2.5 years?
Yeah, I would say because of my work then, I got to do a lot of community development work, not only in Bangkok, but I got to travel to many different provinces in Thailand and work with many small villages and many local peoples from different regions, different backgrounds, different ethnicities as well. So I would say I was very privileged to see a side of Thailand that not a lot of expat has the chance to experience. And yeah, I fell in love with like through my work, I got even more connected with the country.
What kind of work were you doing?
Yeah, so I work for UNDP Asia Pacific on the Youth Leadership Innovation Project, but also at the same time, I work for the Thailand country office for the Thailand Social Innovation Platform. And we run also programs to, we run youth innovation competitions, we run conferences, workshops, exchange program for young people to collaborate with communities in Thailand or Thai people within communities in Thailand to come up with innovative solutions that solve social issues in Thailand. And because we want to focus on solving social issues in Thailand, we work with many different local communities that are experiencing those social challenges. So we get to go to villages where, maybe up in the north where they don't have any identifications. Maybe a fun fact that I can share as well, that there's many people in Thailand who doesn't have a nationality, even though they've been living in Thailand for many, many years. They're not recognized as a Thai nationality. So they have a card saying that they're aliens. So they have a pink card that actually say they are aliens because they don't have a nationality. Mm-hmm. So we work with this community to, understand the difficulty. Like if you're an alien, you can't own land or anything. You don't have a legitimate education certificate. You can't really leave the area to find opportunities. So there's a lot of barriers around these communities. So what we try to do is to see what are the solutions we can offer to them, what kind of program we can design so that they can get access to opportunities or educations, or bring their ideas out to the world, or bring resources into their communities. Yeah, so that was one of the examples.
How did you work with the communities? Like, would UNDP already work with these communities, and then you arrive and you discuss with everyone? Or how does that work to identify a community and then start working with them?
So during my time, we work with many new communities that we never been there before. And a lot of them go through, network of connections. We also have Thai team members, and my boss was also Thai. And, Thailand office also have a lot of connections with, we start with communities nearby Bangkok. And then some of the community reference us to other communities. And also, in Thailand, they have, each village have kind of a small village leader. And they will be the one who connect us to all the other village community that, they feel like we should be visiting. And the way we try to help them was either we'll help bring in resources. For example, we design a program where we bring in young people with capabilities to design ideas and projects, or we bring some of these ideas out into our events and conferences so that our network maybe will be able to support them. And also, we also run programs and competitions or trainings in Bangkok, where we also invite leaders of this community to come to receive training, or we invite young people from this community to come to pitch their ideas, to compete, to learn together, and then we'll provide them with some support. Yeah.
Do you remember one idea that you loved from back then?
Yes, there are many. But I would say there's one that I was most impressed with was from this community, from this small school in the north of Thailand. I actually forgot the exact name of the village, but I'm really sorry about this, but it's been a few years ago. But we visit this school who allow the students of these alien communities to study with them. And there's this one group of students who's in 10th grade, so they're about 16. And they've been working together for 2 to 3 months to develop this small prototype of natural disaster alert system. So the idea was very clever in the way that in the mountain area, there's a lot of landslide or flood that come unannounced or come when, so sudden that the siren that announced the disaster is so far away that the people in the remote area maybe wouldn't be aware of that. So this group of students designed like prototype a device that use recycled mobile phone, and they put one mobile phone on a tower pole, and this pole can be like meters or short or tall, depending on where you would put it nearby your house. But in the pole, there will be a sensor that if the water level, if the flood reach a certain level of the pole, it will signal the mobile phone at the top to call the person's phone number. So it's kind of like an instant alert system that even if you live far away from town, if you can't hear the siren, you had instant alert that there's a flood coming, or if there's a fire or earthquake coming. So the sensor can adapt to that. And they can put this pole a few meters away from their house, or, from the directions that usually the disaster would come in. And they would instantly get a call to their phone number where a disaster is coming. And the amazing thing about this idea is that they can build it with only 200 baht.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's a really cheap, low cost idea, and they use recycled material, and it's created within 3 months by a team of 16 years old. And you can imagine, like, if they can roll it out, it can save lives, like literally lives for people in these areas. So that was something that was really powerful to me. Like when they demonstrated the prototype, and when we hear the microphone just rang from the demonstration, we literally had goosebumps.
So 200 baht is around 6 euros, so $8 for everyone's information. So very cheap. Let's try to find the name after the interview so I can include it in the notes. So I'm wondering, like, after you work in all these grassroots communities, more like, when did you start thinking about going back to Vietnam and doing things in Vietnam?
So after Bangkok, because I do a lot of community engagement work, I also realized after 2.5 years of working is that because I didn't study Thai, because I couldn't speak Thai very well, there's a certain there's a limit to what I can actually involve with the community development work. A lot of this work is, building relationship, talking with the grassroots people, managing like very little details of the project, which are the things that, my teammates was doing very well, and we all enjoy this work a lot. But, I also found that as a foreigner who doesn't speak the language, I face a certain barrier that prevent me to go further into the details of this kind of work. And also, I at that time, I also want to see. I also realized that the ecosystem in Thailand have very unique conditions that enable this social innovation, these ideas to bloom, and they have a very unique set of conditions of how that build the ecosystem this way. So I was curious if there's any other ecosystem out there in other country, how it's like without these unique conditions, would it be the same? And especially I was curious to see what I could bring back to Vietnam and what I couldn't. So I wanted to work in another country before I moved back to Vietnam. Yeah, and that's when I moved to KL, to Malaysia.
So what were you doing in Malaysia?
Yeah, so in Malaysia, I work for Tandemic, which is a consultancy focused on innovation. And they do both corporate innovation and social innovation. So that was the new area that I get to learn. Like before, I was only working in social innovation. But in this consultancy, I also learned how it works working with corporate clients. And I can tell you it's very, very different.
Like, is methodology different, or is just because before you were working with young people in grassroots community, now you're working with big corporations in the capital city, in big towers?
So put it this way, before when I was with UNDP, we were kind of working as client perspective, because as UN, you can hire other consultancy to do very specialized piece of work. But when you work in a consultancy, you kind of work as the provider for your clients. So you work as your client wishes and work as a client brief, and you serve the client's projects objectives. So that was the two sides of the switch, that I would switch from working from a client perspective to a provider perspective. But that's just the change in the role, right? But also I changed to work in provider perspective, but also not just social innovation anymore, but also to corporate clients. And I would say once you specialize in anything, like as in this consultancy, we specialize in providing trainings and content for design thinking and innovation processes. Is much more. It's less about organizing and mobilizing resources. You don't have to care about building relationships with. Well, maybe not. Let me formalize this so that I don't, offend my own bosses. I would say, like, when you specialize in a certain area, like, you don't, like, compared to before, you have to do everything from beginning to the end, organizing, reporting, looking at stakeholder relationship management, and then you leave that specialized piece for the consultancy to do it. But when you only focus on the small piece, every single details have to nail down to, even, I don't know. Have you worked in consultancy before?
I don't think so. I think I've always been on the other side.
Somehow I'm struggling to describe this. I guess simply put, it's more process oriented, and you don't really have to care about the before and after of the piece of work that you do. Usually with, like, let's say for a UN project, you follow the whole project for a long period of time, let's say 6 months or a year. But with short-term contract or, client-specific brief, do you very focus on that single delivery or, just very specialized piece of work? And you try to bring as much specialties and knowledge as possible. But then the end output would be, the satisfaction of the clients, or the effectiveness of the trainings or learnings that you able to deliver, but not necessarily, the success of the whole projects as a whole. Does it make sense?
Yeah. And what fulfills you the most?
I would say that although I was curious with doing corporate innovation, I wasn't particularly happy with helping corporate being more and more powerful and rich, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I definitely see the values of, being a specialized arm of a certain field and just focus on being advancing and leading in that field. But at the same time, if all that specialties is used to, enriching and empowering corporate or big money clients, for me, that was the bit that I wasn't aligned with the most. And I really do miss working with grassroots people and being there and actually know that what we did this one day, it doesn't only end in this one day. It's actually follow up with them for a long period of time and see how things progress. So that was definitely the parts that I didn't get to see when I was in the consultancy.
I'm curious, before we speak about you returning back to Vietnam, Like with AIESEC, with UNDP, with Tandemic, you were always in the innovation, entrepreneurship, and leadership world. What are your learnings from the methodology used? Like, with AIESEC, UNDP, Tandemic, did you use the same methodologies, or did you see big differences between the different organizations?
You mean with the community work or with, different innovation methodology?
I guess the end goal is always to, I don't know, develop the leadership potential of people, foster innovation, foster, I don't know, new business ideas. Is it done the same way in all these organizations?
I would say very different. I would say the difference is, for example, in AIESEC, the most important priority was the people. They focus on the leadership capacity and the fulfillment of potential in the people that they engage with. So I would say an example is even if the project failed, but if the people involved in it feel like they have grown and learned and they become a better person, it's still considered a success. And with the UN projects, I would say with the priority, at least when I was there, with the priority to help the community and to come up with, usable solutions and make sure to see that into implementations. The focus is much more into, the practicality of the ideas, the impact of the project, how we would, work with the people in the community in the long term so that we ensure that we see some changes happening. And with Tandemic, it's really focused on building up the specialty, the capacity of the team, so that we ensure that we bring the best of knowledge of our consultancy. And it doesn't have to be, we don't follow up with the client's project from beginning to the end. So we don't ensure their success, or we don't ensure the continuity of the project, but we focus on building our capacity so that we bring the best possible result for the delivery that our clients expect. So I would say, it's all innovation work, but depend on what's most important to the organizations. The outcome is different, and of course, there's million different ways to do this work. But I would say the focus on each of the organization is very different.
And from all of that, from everything that you learn, like what do you want to bring back to Vietnam?
I think for me personally, I came back to Vietnam because I wanted to work more with communities in Vietnam. So I actually really want to, I felt like I have been away for so long and I've learned so much in other countries, but at the same time, I don't feel like I know that much about my own country. So I set out a team with the objective that, we would reach further regions that is not, we reach people and communities that are not in the big cities, less advantaged, or they have, very unique challenge that only happening in Vietnam. And we hope would bring, solutions from our learnings, that we would bring solutions that will work in Vietnam. But unfortunately, since I set up the team, I wasn't able to be in Vietnam so much. So my team does most of the work that I would love to do, but I'm also very happy that they get a chance to do that.
Yeah, what's the name of your social enterprise? How did you set it up? With people with random people?
So I started a team in 2019, in early 2019, and we registered as a social enterprise a couple of months after. And the company is called Innovation Incubator. You can find us on Facebook if you add, Innovation Incubator in Vietnam or Social Innovation in Vietnam. Because I think there's also a random innovation incubator somewhere else in the world. We set up in early 2019, so it's actually a very young entity. It's, more than a year and a half by now.
I think we never said the name of Asia Pacific Youth Exchange, but I think it was always something embedded within UNDP in Thailand, and it's also one of the activities of Innovation Incubator, right?
Yes. So with the team that I how to say, so I was in the founding team of APYE in Thailand. It's actually a franchise model that is now happening in the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Korea, coming to India next year as well. And also we have a team in Taiwan. So it's a franchise model, and there's a team in each country who run the program in that country. And so when I was in Thailand, I also ran this program for 2.5 years. And I wanted to bring this model to Vietnam to work with Vietnamese community with this program. So it's actually the reason why we founded a company to run this program first and foremost. But after a while running this program, the team also have the capacity to run some other program. And the company just kind of grow that way to, we grow our other programs and products as well. But it's still aligned with the, community development through trainings and empowerment objective, which is also written in our business registrations as well. That's what we're allowed to do in Vietnam.
So, okay, I find it very interesting. So you were part of the founding team in APYE Thailand. So that's how you got involved in APYE community. And then, you started it in Vietnam 2 years ago. But to start it, you established an organization to run this. And then you realized with all your team, you can do more than just the APYE. So you started different activities. Interesting. How did you set up the team for APYE Vietnam? Because you were still in Malaysia, right?
Yeah. So I started setting up the team during my transition period from Thailand to KL. So I took a 2 months break at the early of 2019. And during this break and transitions to move country and change job, and I used that break to, set up something in Vietnam. I definitely took too much more than I could handle back then. But I was also on, a world travel tour during my break. So I actually was interviewing and recruiting my team while I was traveling all around, Nepal and Tibet and Italy and then came home for Lunar New Year holiday. So I did the whole setup during my break time. And when I left to my job to KL, I left most of the work for my team to manage, because my objective at the beginning was not like the entity in the program wasn't for me to be involved or to learn anymore, because I've been doing it for two or 3 years. I wanted to give this opportunity for my team in Vietnam. For them to learn and grow with the program and do their best for it. And that's what they did for the first year. And when I was kind of, determined that the work in KL wasn't for me anymore, I got what I wanted. I learned about the ecosystem. I learned a lot more about innovation expertise. And then I wanted to move back to Vietnam to work more closely with the team and have it grow even further. But then unfortunately, COVID year happened, and we're in a bit of the limbo at the moment.
What is your dream with Innovation Incubator? How do you see it, in the future, in the perfect condition? How do you see its impact? How do you see its activities? Did you ever think about it?
I thought about it. Let me formulate my thoughts a little bit better. I guess I don't have a fixed vision in my head what's the ideal successful image would be, but what I would really love to do with it is is a space for all of us, for me and my team, to be able to test and execute all the ideas that we have. It's kind of like a playground, it's called an incubator as well. So it's kind of anything that our team or members would like to do that align with their purpose, we provide a structure, a support system, a space that enable them to do that. If you look at our program portfolio at the moment, we also have exchange program, volunteer program to teach for free for kids. training program and also like series of events. For now is connected in somehow, but let's say, for example, in the future, like one of our team members decided to do something about healthcare, like we have a member who's very passionate about the healthcare sector, and she decided to test out innovative projects related to that issues. I would be really happy to take the whole company to that direction because, it's innovative, it's contribute to a cause, is something we're both passionate about, and we have a space and an entity that can enable us to follow that direction. So I would say that if we can grow our portfolio into many different meaningful, innovative projects, that would be very, very cool for me.
Yeah. Do you think you're on the right track to achieve that?
I would say with 2020 is we don't have a track at the moment. So I don't know if you have talked a lot with social entrepreneur during COVID time, is especially with enterprises like us that have international elements related, a lot of services and logistic required with the limitations of COVID and the lockdown and limitations of travel between different areas and different countries is almost shut all of our activity down completely, except if we want to do anything online. So I would say for us this year would be in survival mode, and we try to keep our capacity and keep our people and keep our team afloat. But I wouldn't, because of the uncertainties that are going to come in the next year or even within the next 2 years, we will take it by, day by day at a time.
Yeah. I realize you've been working with, like, for example, through all the APYE events, programs. You always coordinate, hundreds of people, of young delegates, and then you coordinate like a big community of alumni. And you do this for pretty much everything that you do. And always with the objective. So I love your LinkedIn sentence. So let me read it. So her passion is to help people find their passions and activate the leadership potential of young people. So I wonder, like, what is the recurring, things that you see, patterns you see among young people who maybe they didn't find their passion, they didn't activate their leadership potential yet? Do you see things across young people in different countries, and what do you advise them?
I think I can't say a lot for other people, but I can say it for myself, that I can like through my journey, I can observe how different I am from, being a person without purpose or without passion, with the person I am today. If I would have take, a career directions that work in a corporate or work in business, maybe I would have been better off financially or, career prospect without so much, I don't have if I'm not a social entrepreneur, if I'm not leading my own company, maybe I wouldn't have to deal with the COVID trouble, right? Somebody else struggled. But then without purpose and passion, would I be as happy? Would I be as, energetic, and would I be as, would I have the friends that I have today? I think that's I think for especially young people, when they're starting to make big life decisions, it's always very confusing, right? You always have influence from the expectation of the society, from your family, from what you already studies and invest in, what your teacher, your school tell you, or what yourself think would be, a better path. But at the end of the day, like if anyone who can just find that one thing that they feel like, everyone work at least 8 hours a day, and that's the majority of your day. Like you work more and you interact with your friends and family. You work for 8 hours, you eat and rest for the rest 10 hours, just only leave you a few minutes for yourself and friends and family. So if you don't use that 8 hours very well, the majority of your life you're gonna be suffering. So for me, it's having that one passion or purpose that make you feel excited every day to spend that 8 hours in a meaningful way. That makes a completely big difference to anyone's life, I would say.
I think that's the perfect way to close the loop, because, you know, we started by saying, I mean, the first sentence you say was, till 19, I forgot, but until 19, like you were only, you know, care about romance and what, and shopping, but you started to find your passion, like, which started around uni days with AIESEC. So you saw the value in how it has changed you. So it's nice that you want to share this very big learning with other young people. And so there's one thing okay, we're approaching the end, but there's one thing Linka keeps telling me about you. I wanted to hear in real life about your life philosophy. So, you know, Linka has this theory of people are either giver, either takers. And she keeps telling me, I mean, so Linka is a big giver, you know, but she keeps telling me, you know, Milie, I mean, if me, I'm a giver, Milie is like 1000% more giver. She never thinks about taking. So I'm wondering, how do you formalize this in your own words, and do you agree? Is it something you thought about, you know, consciously?
I mean, if you ask me, I would never say that I myself is a giver, but that is a very big compliment. I think about my life philosophy, I always had this motto since I was very young. I had a very difficult period in my high school years where I literally thought of killing myself, and I reached the deepest level of, you know, you're at the bottom of the hole, and the only way out is to climb out. You know, I literally sat in front of a pile of sleeping pill, and that would have been the end of me that day. But being so close to the bottom and then be able to climb out of it, I also experienced where I felt like, you know, if I die now today, I wouldn't have any regret. I don't know if you ever felt that happiness or fulfillment that you feel like, you know, maybe it's just me, but, you know, I experienced happiness and fulfillments that I felt like even if a car hit me right now, I would die smiling, you know, I wouldn't have any regrets. So my life motto is to be so happy that you want to die, you know, because I want my last moment on earth is to be a happy moment. So I feel like if you constantly walk to experience these moments of extreme fulfillment, extreme happiness, you feel so, you know, passionate with life, or you feel like you've done something so great, and you feel like you've done enough for the world. And even if you would go away, you would not have any regrets. Like, I would really love my actual death, like the last moment on earth, to be a moment like that. And I actually experience feelings that make me feel this way. And I would say, you know, to anyone that, you know, live like that, like live so that you experience this extreme bliss of fulfillments and happiness, that you don't have any regrets in this world anymore. And you don't have to wait until you die to feel it. Like, try to feel it every other week or so.
When was the last time you felt that way, like so happy, and you're like, yeah, if I die today, no regrets?
Well, right now, I would really love not to, because I'm welcoming, you know, my first baby in the world. Let me think of the last time. Give me a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
it must have been a while ago because I can't really remember anything recently. You know, it's been a tough year on everybody.
Yeah, like yesterday, someone asked me, yeah, how was your life before COVID? And I was like, yeah, so it seems like it's like 10 years ago. I don't remember.
All right. um, I think the thing with COVID is like it's limit so much what you can and cannot do. It's actually took me a very long while to cope with the fact that, you know, I'm restricted in any way because I'm so used with the freedom that I had before. Being able to meet my friends and family whenever I want, and, you know, able to create any new projects anytime I want, reach out to anybody. And it's quite difficult to, you know, just to be suddenly cut off from all of that for quite a long time. But let me try to think of anything during or before that. Well, I would say one recently, even though it's very close, it's not exactly the extreme, but it was very close that it made me very, very happy. Is that when we, you know, I think about 6 months ago when our company went through a very difficult time, I actually had to sit down with my team and considering the possibility that we'll have to let everyone go, or we won't be able to pay anyone's salary to that extent because of, you know, the effects of COVID. But then it was very touching that everyone say, oh, you know, like it's not the most important thing. Even if we're not paid, we will continue to work together. And that really moved me, and I felt like I have done something right with my team to, you know, to be able to be at the extreme difficult moments, and they continue to show loyalty and support. And that one small reaction is, it makes me push with everything I had to be able to continue to support them, the team, and doesn't let them be in the situation of being completely unemployed, you know. And actually before that call, I was preparing myself for the fact that, you know, we would have to shut down or let everyone go. But it's just because of that small reaction, that saying that they're willing to continue, that really pushed me to push me to make the decisions that would, you know, not to be that extreme, and continue to support the team. So even though it wasn't a happy moment, it wasn't a happy decisions, situation, it wasn't a happy situation that we were in. But it made me extremely happy that I have people like that in my life and in my work as well. Yeah.
It's so nice. You know, when I ask you, are you on the right track? And you said, no. I think you are, because managing to build such a strong team, which is so passionate about your vision to work with the community, unlock the leadership potential. I think it's what, I mean, if the team survives this, then it will be able to achieve so many things, you know, in a normal situation. So I think you're on the right track. So congrats for that.
Thank you. I guess no track is the right track.
Yeah, there's just so many different tracks, right?
Yeah.
I always end with these two questions because, you know, in this conversation we speak a lot, a lot about the past, deep, like very far away past, a bit about the present. So I also have some questions about the future. So yeah, I'm always wondering about people and about you. Like, how do you want people to know you and to remember you for?
Um, I actually had this vision of myself last year when I turned 25. Because when I had this goal for myself ever since the first time I went abroad, since I was 19, is to travel to 25 countries by 25 years old. And last time when I reached 25, I actually achieved that goal. And I had this vision of, what's next for me. And like after achieving that goal, am I who I wanted myself to be? And I have this vision of, just a feeling. I can't really describe it. Like it's not imagining myself in a positions or in the conditions of, life and power or family or anything. It's just a vision of me being very happy and confident. And other people, when they look at that and they see, oh, that's her, that's, that very confident, cool, bold lady who does things that she does. And I think that energy, in a way, is something that people can look up to. It's something positive and powerful, and it's a form of example that you've done something, you lead by actions, and you express this attitude of confidence and go for it. So I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but I would really love if one day I see myself that way, or people would see myself that way.
And no 50 countries before 50?
Oh no, I actually think that, traveling so much is not so sustainable. So I'm actually very happy that I have some downtime, and, I love my experience of being adventurous and exploring. But I think, when you reach a certain stage, you don't have that urge and you don't have that pressure to live so fast anymore.
Would you say that you are still as rebellious than when you were younger?
I would say I'm even more rebellious.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Well, I mean, that's, I think if rebellious in a way that allow you to be who you are and be happy with your life is not a bad thing. If you rebellious in a way that is destructive or, damaging people's lives, I don't think it's a good way to go. But for me, the things that I have to rebel the most was, mostly the social pressure and norms towards an Asian girl, to be specific. So that's something that I always try to break out of. And also a lot of, even within families, there's a lot of generation gaps and limitations that we don't really understand each other. There's expectations and decisions that are somehow, I would like to make for myself and not to be influenced by any others. I would, be very strong about it. But, I don't rebel against the system or anything like that.
And how would you describe yourself in 3 hashtags?
3 hashtag. I think there's 3 words that my friend gave me that I put in my Facebook profile. So my friend described me as, so this is my roommate in KL who we got very close. And she's like a bigger sister for me. And she gave the perfect description that even I don't have anything to object. So she said I'm very wacky, adventurous, and passionate for life.
Wacky? What does that mean? I never heard this term.
Exactly. That's exactly what it means. It means like, quirky, I guess, in English.
Oh,
But
okay.
like, yeah, wacky, like, you know, cool and weird, I guess.
I translated it. Okay, it's like crazy, but the good crazy.
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay, cool. How can people support Innovation Incubator, or where can people reach out to you if they want to reach out to you?
Yes, so if it's me, you can reach me on my Facebook, Milie Nguyen. It's the most popular Vietnamese name. Or just find innovationincubator.asia in Facebook or Instagram. And that's where you can reach me or my team anytime.
Cool. Thank you so much, Milie, for this hour and 30-minute conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the story of Milie. Feel free to reach out to her if you enjoy this episode. And of course, please do share this episode with your friends. That's the best way to support Lifeline podcast. See you next time.